regardless of whatever innocence Antonio Brown's lawyer or Antonio Brown himself may attach to all of this, we are finding ourselves looking at Antonio Brown and starting to ask this question: why you? Why are you the one finding yourself in this situation? And then when you combine that with the fact that you just had trouble with the Steelers, and the Steelers are saying that you need to go because obviously you're an elite receiver, 6 consecutive years, 100-plus receptions, a minimum of 1,287 yards per season over the last 6 years, clearly recognized as one of the top 2 receivers in all of football over the last 6 years. Why would the Steelers organization, first class, a gold standard in this league, decide they want to consider getting rid of you? And so I would say this will end up derailing the Steelers to some degree. I don't want Antonio Brown going from the Steelers, but I do find myself a bit annoyed that he finds himself in this situation, innocent or guilty or whatever. We don't know the facts. But finding yourself in this situation is not good for the image of Antonio Brown. And if there's one thing he has taught us about himself, is that he cares about his image.
First, we have to wait until the facts come out.
Right.
Because this is serious, and you don't want to presume guilt, and yet you also don't want to presume a false accusation.
Right.
So we have to wait till the facts come out, obviously. The truth is, in our legal system, there is supposed to be a presumption of innocence. And you hope that that's the case, that there's a presumption of innocence legally. But the truth is also that in the public square, there's a presumption of guilt. I think there's an unconscious kind of reaction that people have, or an automatic reaction. If someone's being accused of something, where there's smoke, there's fire. I think that's kind of a human response. And particularly, if you've heard the name attached to controversy in the past, even if it's not serious legal controversy, if the sense that you're getting is that there are negative stories surrounding someone. We're talking about public figures, of course, but even in private life, people can think of their own reputations. Are you more likely, is something more likely to stick, whether true or not ultimately, and damage your reputation? Are you more susceptible to allegations of any kind? If your reputation is good or if it's not so good. If it's not so good, you are more vulnerable. Now, I'm not suggesting that we assume that they're false allegations. I'm not suggesting that.
Right.
You know, as I said, we have to wait till the facts come out. But I think one thing to take from this is, for certainly people in public life, and in this case, players in the NFL, is your reputation is very important. If you are worried that you are susceptible or vulnerable to accusations, period, and the way that they will affect you, then you should consider your reputation and guard it jealously, because it can have an outsized impact on the way you're viewed under these circumstances. Again, I presume neither guilt nor do I presume that they're false accusations. Have to wait for the facts to come out.
Here's what I do know. I don't assume anything. And I don't have enough information to, but obviously take these kind of situations very seriously. And I think the bottom line is he's hurting himself with this. Whether he wants to try to stay with the Steelers or go to another team, it's not optimal timing, and there's never good timing for a situation like this anyway, but in terms of his career. But I don't have enough information to know whether he's well,
the Steelers would certainly be selling low now, right?
He's guilty or innocent. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. We just don't know enough, and it's not fair for me to say that, to put Antonio in that situation without knowing.
Absolutely.
But I take it very seriously, obviously.
You have to take it very seriously. Max is absolutely right. The presumptions of innocence until proven guilty is a legal thing in our country. In terms of public consumption, how Joe Public views things, the bottom line is there are some people that are automatic. For example, the words domestic dispute were up there. You know what people are thinking: domestic violence. You see what I'm saying? Now, that's not the word that was put up there. That's not the word that's been printed and disseminated to the media. But when you hear domestic dispute, you think domestic violence. And even though there was no arrest or anything like that, the bottom line is you're going to think domestic violence and Antonio Brown. And if these accusations against him, or whatever accusations that there may be against him, are false, that's incredibly sad and unfortunate, and that needs to be dealt with as well. If there's a shred of truth to it, he has a problem. Either way you slice it, the fact that his name is in the news. Think about it since the NFL season has ended for the Pittsburgh Steelers. The last week of the NFL season, the last days of the Pittsburgh Steelers season, up until this point, tell me one thing positive that has been said about Antonio Brown. Right. One.
That he's a hard worker.
That's it? And obviously elite. But I'm just saying, if you're Antonio Brown, who I've always known to be a good guy, Ryan Clark has obviously a more intimate relationship with him because he was his teammate and he knows him a hell of a lot better than I do or most people do, so he'd be more equipped to discuss it. But in the end, I know this much about Antonio Brown. He cares about his name. He cares about his reputation. And I have never seen his name and his reputation take the hits that it has taken over the last month. By the way,
to answer the question, how will the news, what kind of an impact will it have on the Steelers? They were already talking about separating, right? Like seeing what they could get for him. They can get less for him today than they could yesterday.
Yes.
You know, but I'm sure they want to get rid of him even more so now.
But does this saddle them with him if they can't get anything like equal value for him?
Maybe, just maybe, because this stuff is hitting him, and it's a maelstrom of controversy that his name's been associated with, maybe his attitude changes or modifies to some degree, and as a result, it might make the Steelers more receptive towards keeping him.
We'll see.
We don't know.